The Forum on the Family is one of the premier family conferences held each year with international and national speakers and political leaders. Hosted by Family First New Zealand, the Forum brings together a national network of family-focused organisations, scholars, lobby groups, church leaders and community groups who are part of a growing movement to bring New Zealand to a point where families are strengthened, marriage is honoured, life is protected and religious freedom is defended. This year's conference will again be held at the Dewdrop Event Centre in Manukau City, not too far from the Auckland Airport, on Thursday 28th of August and Friday 29th of August. Yes, because of demand, we're starting the conference earlier with 3 important sessions and a time of networking on the Thursday evening, and then a full-day program all day Friday. This year's theme is Courage at a Cultural Tipping Point. The culture is slowly but surely waking up to the harmful effects of the radical left-wing agenda and the destruction of family values that we all hold dear. Some countries have even figured out how to define a woman. And at this year's conference, once again, we have an amazing lineup of brave speakers from the US, Canada, Australia and New Zealand. Dr. Miriam Grossman last spoke at our forum in 2012. You may also recognise her from the recent Daily Wire documentary, What is a Woman? But more recently, she's released an important book on the transgender agenda. I'll be doing a live interview with Dr. Grossman from New York, where she is based. Jeff Johnson is an issues analyst for Focus on the Family in the United States. We're also very excited to have Dawn Hawkins discussing the issue of pornography and sexual exploitation. From Canada, we have Amanda Ackman bringing us a warning about the slippery slope of euthanasia. From Australia, we have Kiralee Smith, a wife, a mother, and an activist for biology and truth, but who is paying the price for speaking up. And for the first time in New Zealand, you will get to hear their side of the story. Israel and Maria Folau. Now, we're hoping that they'll be able to attend in person. They're keen to be here, but it does depend on Israel's rugby schedule in Japan. But either way, we'll get to hear from them personally and not via the hostile mainstream media. And finally, we're hosting and recording a special episode of Straight Talk before a live audience at the conference. It'll be a lively discussion and you can be part of that live audience. I want to invite you to this year's Forum on the Family. It starts Thursday night, 28th, 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and then all day Friday, 29th from 8:45 a.m. through to 4:30 p.m. It's the highlight of the year and you don't want to miss it. Arrange to be there. Book your flights today. Gather your friends. If you're concerned for our culture, our country and our families, you may be saying, what can I do? Well, step 1, attend the Forum on the Family. Have your spine stiffened by some fabulous speakers who will encourage, equip and inspire you. Now, the last couple of years have been sellouts, so don't delay. Go to our website, forumonthefamily.nz, for all the information you need. Register today. Don't miss this important family conference. Go to forumonthefamily.nz. Register today.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, wonderful people. Welcome to Solid Ground on this a Thursday, and where it is not raining and not foggy outside here in Auckland. But good morning to you all. For first-time viewers, Solid Ground is where we talk the political, cultural, social, and to be honest, just a little curios which catch my eye over the last 24 or 48 hours, and we have a bit of a chat about them from what we hope, or we perceive to be a solid ground of good philosophy, good ethics, and I'd have to say a right-minded brain. Look, welcome to everyone. Again, if you're new, you can make comments, because this show is live. If you want to make comments, you can jump onto Family First's YouTube channel, or Family First Facebook page, and if you do so, comments come to me live here in the studio. If you're on my page or LinkedIn or X or wherever, that is also fantastic. I'll get to your comments later, but comments can come live if, again, you're on Family First's pages. Just like this for Michael, good morning. We've got Catherine there in Dunedin. Lovely Jackie there in Raitihi, fantastic. Harrison, lovely to have you back on, and never apologise for focusing on your schoolwork, I can say that. Awake Not Woke from Takaka there, fantastic. And DD, good to have you along, so welcome everyone. I'm not exactly sure if there's a problem with my Facebook connection today. Nothing's coming through. I've got lots of YouTube comments. I'm just putting that out there that there could potentially be oh no, Rosie's there. Good. Okay, Rosie has restored my faith in the Facebook comments. Good morning, and very wet there in Taupo. Hey guys, there's always a lot to talk about. This is going to have a little bit of a foreign affairs and a media focus, and you look, it's going to be around Israel, partly because it's on my mind, partly because of this. I wrote this yesterday. Well, sorry, I published this yesterday. I actually wrote this about a week ago. Stuff you might have seen. Published an opinion piece from Phil Goff, which is, well, they're very welcome to do. They published Phil's op-ed, and I think 2 days later or 3 days later I submitted mine, because I was basically just pointing out, as Phil in this case slammed Israel, which he's welcome to do. He made absolutely no comment about the terrible happenings, the massacres, the barbaric behaviour on October 7th, and I thought that was quite striking. And if you're going to talk about the war in Israel and Gaza, that you might talk about the key catalyst. He mentioned nothing about the hostages, mentioned really nothing about Hamas. So long and short, I wrote this Substack, which I have to say is going very well and been very well received. So that is, well, go and have a read, substack.com. But in following what's happening, I was on Rima Radio yesterday talking about this, because I think for all of us, what's happening is absolutely ghastly in the Middle East. It's very complex. So I don't really want to get into the Israel-Gaza question as such. I just wanted to reflect using a few examples with you of how mainstream media is basically taken a very clear side, and spoiler alert, it's not Israel's side. They're not being balanced. They're basically just amplifying and propagating they're just amplifying and propagating Hamas's propaganda, which in itself is concerning, because even though it's lost on a few New Zealanders here, Hamas is a terrorist organisation, as is Hezbollah and many others. These are very deeply problematic organisations, to put it very, very gently. We tend to think or project our Western views around the world, and I can tell you these terrorist groups don't think the way we do. They don't perceive human rights in the way that we do. And Douglas Murray and others have spoken about this other part, but as we celebrate and want life, they want death. It's perhaps difficult for people here to perceive. I don't know. I don't want to be presumptuous. Just a couple, before I switch, a couple of lovely comments here, so thank you. We've got Matthew there from Waihi. Oh, that's where my wife's side of the family comes from, down in Waihi. Lovely there. Alex, good morning. Sue is telling me that all is good on the light. Thank you. That is good to know. Morning from Lynette. Good to have you here. Susan, yes, please take a read. As I say, if people want to read my Substack, just go to substack.com and look up On Point, or look up my name. Good morning to Darren. And yeah, I mean, this is just one comment around the whole Israel question. It is just one, country amongst 49 Arab or Islamic states around them. I mean, yeah. But what I want to focus on and why is just, again, I suppose one of my encouragements to everyone here, and I suppose you're already doing so, is really just to be very skeptical of what you read in media around any topic, by the way, any topic. And that includes when I'm speaking on different things. If you're unsure, go and research, as I'm sure and I know you will do. But it was examples like this from a couple of days ago. So you'll know that there's a new aid system being developed. It's being run effectively by American contractors and then protected by the Israeli army. And it's slightly controversial because A, it's not being run by the UN, and the UN's having conniptions that they're not in control. And secondly, people do have to pass through Israeli security to get to the food. Now on the plus side, if you will, Israel saying, well, look, this stops Hamas operatives getting the food and keeping it for themselves, because they'd point out enormous amounts of aid have gone in through the UN system and it seems to all just disappear. Secondly, the flip side, or the negative side, is people saying, well, look, there's almost conditions on aid. People should just be able to come and freely get it. And also, I think it's only 4 aid sites, and people are being corralled. So let's not overcook how great this is. There are issues with it. But of course, the UN's not happy, but they're never happy about anything that they're not controlling. So what's been happening? Because we know Hamas don't like this. But here's a couple of headlines. This is particularly from the BBC, who have completely gone off the rails and are running headlines like this. So every day there are new claims being made by Hamas, a terrorist organisation. We might just reconfirm to people. But here's one of the headlines: that 6 were killed by Israeli gunfire, Hamas officials say. There's no verification of this. The BBC, like other outlets, just run the story. Now look, it's possible that it's true. That's not my point. I think it's unlikely for a variety of reasons, mostly because Hamas has a reason to stop people. It seems to be lost on a lot of people that the Middle East, Gaza, is not just awash with Israeli guns, it's with a terrorist group's weapons as well, who can also shoot and kill. They have form in this regard. But you can see how the BBC are just running basically Hamas's lines. Here's another example. This was, I think, also from the BBC, or it might have actually been from Stuff. But Israeli troops fire on Gaza civilians near the aid centre, 36 dead. Headline screams out. Then you read into the article and it says, this was told to us by the Gaza Health Authority. Again, the Gaza Health Authority is Hamas. So it's just, really, guys, as I say, it's just appalling journalism. They are legitimising a terrorist group. They are amplifying and propagating the word of a terrorist group. And it has to stop. And one of the ways that we can help it stop is really just not to engage and not to believe a lot of what we're saying. And I want to underline the point: we should be trying to seek the truth. What is Israel doing? What is Hamas doing? We should try to find out that truth. It is very difficult because journalists, by and large, are not allowed into Gaza at the moment, including because it's far too dangerous. Having been to the border myself and seen as far as I could what's going on, I sort of understand why it's difficult to go in. But when you have basically major news outlets running Hamas's lines, it borders on ridiculous. Totally inappropriate, and no journalistic integrity. It's just a major problem, as I keep saying. It's a major problem. And actually, DD's saying that there's lots of comments flying through. Yeah, it is lying. And it's just, again, it's multiple examples of this. I thought as well related to it is this person, if we're not talking Jacinda Ardern to annoy people, let's talk about Greta Thunberg. So she's completely lost, of course, now around climate change. It's no longer the cause du jour for her. So she's picked up the Palestine cause, and off she goes in a theatrical performance on a little boat sailing to break an international blockade. A blockade actually by both Egypt and Israel, but she only wants to target the Jews. But what I wanted to point out is how she cosplays or costume plays the roles. And I think that is incredibly disrespectful, not only to the people of Gaza, but obviously the people of Israel. So here she says, once they arrested her, so they boarded the ship, there's a whole lot of footage of it, boarded her ship, she claimed to be kidnapped. And I couldn't help but remember, was it 2 years ago or a year and a bit ago in Columbia University there in the United States? Remember those big violent protests of students? And then they locked themselves in and the police said, fine, we'll just leave you locked in, cut off your food and water supplies. Well, next minute their spokesperson's out there after a few hours claiming they've been victimised and that they need humanitarian aid. Again, conflating their experience there in Colombia with what's happening in Gaza, which again is so inappropriate to the Gazans who, many are starving, are suffering. They're not in Ivy League universities. protested. And the same with Greta here. She was not kidnapped in any shape or form. So I'm going to share this, as disturbing or uncomfortable as it might be for some people to see. She's not been kidnapped. The nature of it is not. As I say, the bottom was a young Israeli female soldier who was kidnapped. This is the reality at the bottom. And people like Greta are just cosplaying. As we have here in New Zealand, they put on their scarves and run about, again, what they believe the cause to be today. And put it this way, I have no doubt when this particular Palestinian or Gazan cause finishes at some point, and it will inevitably, and let's hope it's sooner rather than later, you'll find the same protesters here from the Chloe Swarlbucks and others will disappear on to the next cause. So yeah, so I'm just looking at some of the comments here. I've been overrun with them, guys, so I'm not going to get to all of them, but thank you for what you're all putting down here. I do actually agree with Catherine calling out the UN. As I noted in my little op-ed that I wrote. Again, Stuff wouldn't publish it, or didn't publish it, forgot to publish it, missed it, I don't know. They didn't publish it. But as I pointed out there, the UN is actually actively trying to stop this aid project. Their aid is not working. Ipso facto, if it was working, if the UN's system was working, people would be relatively well fed, but they're not. The new system, for all its faults, is still distributing food, but the UN doesn't want it. And as I say, I pointed out in the op-ed that you'd think the who and the how of how aid is being distributed would be secondary if there was a famine going on. So anyway, Oh, the last thing that reminds me, sorry, as I finished my thought there, I thought this was actually very clever when Greta and her other protesters, and that's what they were, the aid they were bringing was just so small in the grand scheme of things. And again, it's just theatrical. It was all done for media. And I'd say it's done for themselves. There's a narcissistic element to it all. But my understanding of they threatened to, whether they did, I don't know, but the Israeli authorities threatened to make them watch 45 or so minutes of video that the Israelis have collected and shared with politicians and journalists who were willing to watch it. Around the world. I've only seen parts of it. It's the raw footage taken usually from Hamas terrorists' cameras of them butchering people. It's beyond horrific is the only thing I'll say. But they were going to force her to watch it, and I hope they did. I hope they did, because then she might get a bit of a reality check of who and what she's involved with. Now, riffing from that, because I thought I'd jump from talking the Palestine or the Gaza-Israel situation to this, which came through a couple of days ago. I was going to talk about it on Tuesday on Solid Ground then, but I ran out of time. This again just shows you the problem that we have in the UN at the moment. So the UN's Economic and Social Council, so it's like a subcommittee of the General Assembly. This is the council which is also responsible for monitoring human rights. And you'll see there at the top, and there's 2 points to this, but you'll see there at the top who got voted in. The likes of China, Russia, and Turkey have been elected to this UN Council, which in itself is quite extraordinary. Then you look at this. It's a breakdown of the votes that each country got. Now, I don't know if New Zealand is... New Zealand, I assume, was amongst the voters. It's going to be fascinating. It's a secret ballot. I'd be fascinated to know how New Zealand voted. But look at the percentages. Even if you just look at the top one, which is Russia, 61% of the countries in the United Nations voted for Russia to be on the Economic and Social Council responsible for human rights. Just let that sink in. Well over half voted for Russia. Almost 95% voted for China. The fact that they persecute Tibetans and they lock up Uyghurs, persecute House Christians, Falun Gong and others, too bad. They were voted on with 95% of the vote, and you can see the rest there. Burundi, Chad, Turkey, the human rights records of these guys is shocking. But that's the UN for you at the moment, guys. It's beyond a joke, and I suspect, and again I can't prove this to you guys, but with the vote percentages as they are there, it is highly likely that New Zealand voted for some of them, probably not Russia, I'd be surprised. I would say we'd fall over ourselves to vote for China, New Zealand being the way it is at the moment. But again, I just think it's an absolute shocker. And then I just thought, just to, I've put Greta Thunberg's picture up to terrorise you. Here's Helen Clark. So she and a few others, Jeffrey Palmer, Don Brash and others, paid for an ad to go into the papers over the weekend, which again, they're very welcome to do, saying that New Zealand should prioritise its trade with China. We should be disengaging, or at least stepping back from our engagement with our allies, such as America. And of course, Helen, in this open paid advertisement or open letter, made no mention whatsoever of China's appalling human rights record. And the point I just wanted to put across here is, obviously she's a former New Zealand Prime Minister, but she was high up, very high up, here in the United Nations, not with this particular council, but deeply invested in the United Nations and human rights and standing up for what is right and so forth. And yet when it comes to New Zealand and human rights happening in China, she's got nothing to say. Just the money. We just want China's money. The fact that children, people who oppose the regime are put into forced work labour camps to create the cheap items that you want to get off Temu and import to New Zealand. She's got absolutely nothing to say. When it comes to Gaza, Israel, lots of opinions, very strong opinions about human rights, and we'll fall back onto that United Nations experience she has. But when it comes to, as I say, her letter to China, or a letter to New Zealanders about China, human rights can be parked to the side because it doesn't really matter. So I just thought that's very worrying and upsetting. And I'll just finish with this. It's a slightly different topic, but it's keeping to the theme around media. And if you will, it sort of bookmarks or bookends this little conversation that we started with, which was we have to be very careful around what, particularly legacy media, but any media, as I said as well. If there are things you're not sure about that I am discussing, put it in the comments, send me an email, just make contact. I try to be, correct in what I'm saying, but I'm never perfect. But to bookend what we were saying is you can't trust a lot of what's coming out of legacy media, or you have to delve much more deeply. You'll all know that there was the New Zealand Canadian Jim Grennan, who was aggressively, if you will, in the corporate sense, using his 13% of the vote to try and change the board of NZME. So they're the ones responsible for the like of the New Zealand Herald. You will recall, if you were following the media, and we even talked about it here, of just how much attention the media put on Jim and the takeover. Day after day of coverage, desperately trying to find photos of him, in some ways impugning him by trying to make him out as a foreigner, even though he and his wife have lived in New Zealand for years. What they haven't really focused on, and it was good that the centrists, so this was coming from the centrists, they were a good source of news. Stuff, so the other major media outlets, so NZME on one side, Stuff on the other, the owner sold 50% to a United Kingdom private equity firm. You can see it, they're called Apex Partners. And you'll see what my point is, simply and clearly. When it was to do with Jim and the takeover of NZME, but probably because they had a chance of trying to draw the newspaper back towards the centre, there was a huge kerfuffle, hoopla, lots and lots of commentary. Stuff sells 50% of its digital arm to a UK entity. Crickets. You hear nothing. These are the double standards that we are dealing with, and good on the centrist calling it out, and why I just wanted to draw your attention to it here. So guys, I'm going to leave it there. Amongst other things, actually, I have to go onto the platform in a few moments with Sean Plunkett and have a little bit of a chat there. So I'll just finish by reminding you about the Forum on the Family. We're getting a great number of registrations, and last year it sold out. So if you can come along and want to come along, please jump on to forumonthefamily.nz. It would be lovely to have you there. I talked about Substacks. Don't forget Bob does his Substack, McBlog, as well. So again, substack.com. Look up Bob's name or McBlog, just in the same way you can go on and look on Point or my name, and you'll get to my writing. It's all free. You can get access to it. Some of you kindly donate, and that's very generous. Tonight is political playback. That's where we focus in, usually Bob and I, but we have a guest tonight because Bob is away. It's Brendan Malone. He's amazing. It's where, in this case, Brendan and I look at the politics here in New Zealand. Here in New Zealand over the last week or since last Thursday evening. This is live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on X, on YouTube. You can comment just like you're doing now. So that's from 5 o'clock tonight. 5 o'clock tonight, come along and be part of the conversation as we just sort of pull through everything that's happening. And if you can't get enough of Bob and me, which would be interesting, but if you can't get enough of Bob and me, my latest RCR, or reality check interview, is with Bob. In fact, I'm recording a couple more today. I won't say who, but those are going to be great in and of themselves. So guys, always a pleasure. I'm sorry that I can't get to all your comments. It has really exploded. I've lost track. As I say to people, you've got to imagine I have a like a screen to my side and it's just scrolling through. But guys, have a wonderful day. Thank you for your ongoing support and encouragement and your comments and your criticisms and critiques. I love it. I love it. I will see those of you who can make political playback tonight at 5 o'clock. Otherwise, I'll see you on Straight Talk on Monday night or again on Solid Ground on Tuesday morning. So have a wonderful day.